Today is July the 15th, 2021. My name is Tanya Finchum. I'm with Oklahoma State University with the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program. And with me today is Chief Leon Jones of the OSU Police Department. So thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
This will be part of our We Will Remember Oral History Project, and it's being recorded in the Emergency Operations Center on the OSU campus in Stillwater. Today's interview we'll cover a little bit about Chief Jones, and then we'll learn about his experiences with the three tragic historical events here at OSU. January 27th, 2001, a plane crashed carrying 10 men associated with the men's basketball program at OSU, and the university and community made a promise to the families that those lost would never be forgotten. And then 10 years later, November the 17th, 2011, a plane crashed carrying 4 people associated with the women's basketball program here at OSU. And then four years later, October the 24th, 2015, a person drove into a crowd watching the OSU homecoming parade, killing 4 people and injuring around 50 more. But before we get in each one of those incidents, let's learn a little bit about you. Start wherever you want.
So my name is Leon Jones. I was born and raised in a small town in New Boston, Texas. In fact, the population was 4,628 people. Had a great time growing up. Got 4 sisters and 2 brothers. Large family, mom and dad. We're all still here, thank goodness. Blessed. So after graduating high school, I went to work for Walmart there in New Boston. Was eventually transferred to Enid, Oklahoma, where I moved up to department manager, and then loss prevention, which brought me here to Stillwater in 1987. So after working at Walmart for, it was like 1992 when I left Walmart, I went to work for Friendly Mobile Homes, sales and service for 2 years until I got on at the police department here. And when I started at OSU Police Department, things just kind of took off for me, and it was home. And so I've been very fortunate. Oklahoma State is a great place.
Well, let's back up. In high school, what were your plans at that point?
So, and I do a lot of talks with students. When I graduated high school, I had no clue what I was going to do. I was an athlete in school, played football, basketball, ran track. And I thought for sure that I would go to college right out of high school, playing football. And I was recruited by Kansas, but I didn't want to go that far away from home, I guess. So, and I didn't like school. So I decided to not go to college at the time. And in the period, so when I got hired on, our chief, Everett Eden at the time, said he would like for all of us to at least take 18 hours of college credit. That way we can know what the students are going through every day while we're working. We kind of understand their day-to-day roles. I started school and just never finished, so I ended up getting my master's degree. And went to the FBI Academy and took some classes up at University of Virginia while I was there. So everything just kind of fell in place once I got here.
It worked out.
Worked out great.
Where are your degrees from?
So I started here with sociology.
Okay.
And when I had the opportunity to go to the FBI Academy, I didn't want to stop going to school, so I switched to online. And I went to Kaplan University online. And self-discipline was kind of like a big deal for me, so the online school really worked out. And I got my associate's degree, my bachelor's, and then went on for my master's.
Well, then we got a PhD coming, huh?
Yes. Yes.
Were any of your siblings interested in police work? I mean, how did you get interested?
No. Being from a small town, growing up, we didn't really talk to the police very much. And it was just different. My dad would always say, find a job with benefits. And that really hit home when I was working at Friendly Mobile Home because there was no benefits. If it rained and you didn't go to work, you didn't get paid. If you got sick, you didn't go to work, you didn't get paid. So it really hit home that I really needed to do it. Trying to figure out what that career was going to be kind of fell into my lap, working at Walmart, working with all the police agencies.
Okay.
So I traveled around with Walmart companies, catching shoplifters. And I got to work closely with the police departments in the area. And I just thought to myself, this is something I can do. And the Stillwater Police Department, some of the guys there was like, man, you need to join us. And so I put an application in there. And I put an application in here at OSU because I knew an officer here. And OSU gave me the opportunity. And in 1994, it was October 17th, I started.
You just decided to stay?
Started, I got in, and it just felt right. I will tell you, my mom wasn't too happy when I first joined the police department, but with the way things went and my personality with contacting people and just letting them know everything we do kind of helped out a lot. So it changed the views of my family and how we felt about law enforcement. It made it better. And I think this is just my calling.
Well, what did your parents do for a living?
So my dad, he worked at Red River Army Depot. He retired from there. And it's just up the street from New Boston in Hooks, Texas. And my mom, well, she was a stay-at-home mom for a while with 7 of us.
That's what I was thinking.
And then she had opened her own business doing cleaning business. And in fact, she still does that off and on today.
So you would have graduated from high school in 1985. Okay. And football, how was the team?
We were really good. So I started 3 years with the football team as a freshman, junior, and senior. And we went to the playoffs. We just didn't make it all the way to state. Now, basketball, my junior year, we went to the state. We won state 33-0.
Okay.
So competition really helped me get to where I am today. Losing is a big part of winning. But, we had a great team, helped me with teamwork, cooperation, and everything like that. So it was a big learning lesson. Like I said, when I graduated, I had no clue what I was going to do. All I knew is I needed to work. But I didn't want to set my sight on something when I didn't even know what the world was like, starting off. So once I failed and didn't get to go to college to play football, it really redirected my life a lot. And I went to work for a carpet center, laying carpet and linoleum and stuff. And then I was walking through Walmart one day, and the manager recognized me from sports and asked me, would I do autographs there for him? And I was like, sure. And he offered me a job. So I went to work for Walmart, which did have benefits, but it just wasn't what I wanted to do for 20 years. So that's why I went to the route trying to find something else. And police department just hit me in the head and said, come on in.
Well, your first attempt to get on, was it successful?
No, I had applied with Stillwater Police Department for 3 years. So when I turned 21 here, I started applying at Stillwater Police Department. The first time I failed the test, the police officer selection test. The next time I went through the interview process and wasn't selected to move forward. I applied at OSU and then Stillwater at the same time. OSU hired me on the first go around before Stillwater got the opportunity to do it again. So out of loyalty, OSU gave me the opportunity to be here. And so that's why I stayed.
Okay. Well, when you first moved to Stillwater, what did you think of the town itself?
So when I first moved to Stillwater, just being a young kid, I was kind of scared to death. I didn't know what I was getting into, but it kind of it felt like home to me. Close to like New Boston feel. So it just friendly town. So I moved to Enid and it just wasn't as friendly, I guess. And I didn't like Enid. I'm not going to lie. Enid wasn't a town for me. And I had 3 uncles that lived there. So I had family there. And the first opportunity that I got to move out away from Enid, I took it and landed here in Stillwater, which, like I said, it just felt like home. And so when Walmart said he was going to try to move me to Arizona, I said, no, I'm not going. And the other choice they gave me was, well, guess you don't work for Walmart anymore, which was great. I just didn't.
That's the little push you needed.
Yep, just the push I needed.
So how far is New Boston from here?
So it takes us 4.5 hours to drive.
That's
so
not bad.
yeah, it's very northeast corner of the map, 22 miles west of Texarkana.
Okay.
So try to make the trip home as much as possible.
Have their parents been here?
Yes, they'd come up and
they're
visit.
okay with Stillwater now.
Yes, and it's crazy. I got three sisters that live in the Dallas area.
Okay.
A sister that still lives in New Boston, and an older brother. My oldest brother lives in New Boston, and Maurice, my middle brother, he lives here in Stillwater.
There you go. Family close by then. That helps keep you here too,
Yes.
I guess.
Yeah, I moved here in '87. My brother moved here in '99. Opened up his own mechanic shop, and he's doing well.
So 87. When were you born then?
1967, May.
67. Okay. And then got to OSU in 94.
Yes.
In 94. So what was your first task assigned to you? What was your role at that point?
When I first joined the police department, so training is extensive. So we started off doing in-house training and kind of on-the-job training because it was during the middle of football season. So we got the uniforms and everything, and first game was the OOHRP game with the crowd of people, and I've never seen anything like it before. So I was just jumped in, crowd control, stuff like that. And
Did you win?
We won.
Okay.
That was a Barry Sanders. That was a little bit after Barry Sanders, but that was I was trying to remember who was on the team at the time. It was became really good friends with a lot of them, Adam Edwards and Greg Richmond, a lot of the guys there. So January, I went to the academy after training, and that was in Oklahoma City. And the academy, 10 weeks. So I was down there during the Murrah Building bombing. And that morning, we woke up to go to class and sat in the classroom, and the administrative assistant come out, tears in her eyes, said, someone bombed the Murrah Building. Of course, me, I was like, or the federal buildings is what she called us. Like, where at? She's like, it's here in Oklahoma City. I was like, what? So they bring a TV in, and we're watching this news coverage. And I just remember going, man, and then the director came in and said, we need all cadets to form outside. We're going to need you to go down and assist in recovery. And I just remember saying to myself, man, I'm new at this. I'm not sure if I'm ready for that. That's just, it was scary. I got scared. And so sucked it up, went outside, and we all lined up, got our uniforms, got our gear. And they come back and said, Oklahoma has stepped up. They got all the help they need. If they do need us, we'll be more in the line of directing traffic. So we went back into the classroom, and we just kind of talked about it a little bit. They did take us down there to take a look at the building as we drove by, and the pictures didn't do it justice. It was terrible. But it did open my eyes to a lot of things that I would be doing in law enforcement that I didn't really think about when I first started. And so that set me on a different path of, hey, this is a career, this is a serious career, and make sure this is what you want to do. But I was in it to win it. So I stuck it out, did go back down to the Murrah Building area and just kind of soaked it all in, I guess, just to kind of remind me that there's evil in the world and things does happen. And that's the line that I have taken, to help kind of combat that. So
The turning point, I helped a little bit with the turning point.
And I mean, that was just right after I joined the police department. So.
And now you've become part of the Oklahoma standard people talk about with the response to things.
Yes. Yes, it was.
Your mother would have been as afraid for you at that point.
In fact, when the bombing happened and them knowing that I was in Oklahoma City at the academy, and cell phones was fairly new at the time back then, the networks were jammed. So they couldn't get a hold of me. And finally, when I was able to get a hold of them, I called them, and they were just, thank goodness, we just knew that the federal building, police academy would all be together, so they thought I was in the building. So Yes. And then, like I said, after I come back from the academy, I graduated in May on my birthday, actually. Come back and went right back to work. Uh, I started the bike patrol on campus. Did the first community policing officer on campus. Did lake patrol for 9 years because Oklahoma State owns a lake called Blackwell, and it's a recreational area. So got to ride the boats and jet skis and have a lot of fun while I was there. Got promoted to sergeant in '99, and then of course 2001 happened, the plane crash. And several years after that, I got promoted to lieutenant. Went to the FBI Academy in 2005. And 2017, got promoted to captain. And 19, I was promoted to chief.
When you first started, was your goal to be chief?
Good you asked. So when I went in for the chief's interview with Chief Everett Eden at the time, he asked me, he said, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I said, well, I'd like to be a sergeant. I'd like to move up to the rankings. He said, where would you like to be if you were here in 20 years? And I said, I'm going to be sitting where you're at right now.
Okay.
And he's like, and I said that, as a goal, really a dream, but I had no clue that I'd ever be able to make it. But it gave me something to look forward to, trying to get there. And so he pointed at his wall and he said, in order to sit in this chair, you're going to have a degree, a bachelor's degree. And I promised him, I'll go back to school and I'll get all that. So when I graduated with my master's, I sent him a copy of my diploma. And he was so proud. He came over. He lived over by Tulsa now, but he drove over here to congratulate me and shake my hand. So I was a training lieutenant at the time. And when I finally moved into his office as a chief, I sent him a picture and said, guess where I'm sitting? and he was just really proud of that because he had retired back in 2003. And so he was like, you kept your promises. Yes, I did. So it was just kind of neat.
Well, along the way, did you have mentors?
Yes. So a lot of the guys and I'm the only one left that was there whenever I started. And a lot of the officers that was there kind of showed me the ropes and, took care of me and helped me move up the ladder. And then just networking with a lot of other people, a lot of other agencies and officers over at Stillwater. Norm McNichol was really instrumental in that, like some Chief Eden and Ernie Ty. Steve Gahagan's real big because he was my training lieutenant when I first got here. And he was a sergeant. He moved over to Arkansas. Now he's the chief of the University of Arkansas. So we stay in touch quite a bit. So had a lot of people helping me move and reach the dreams that I had set forward.
Cheer anyone.
Yes.
What was your biggest hurdle?
I didn't like school. When I graduated high school, I was like, I'm not going back to school. Making the decision to go to school and continue through to get my master's was like unheard of in my mind. I'm surprised that I did it. It felt good to get it. And going to school thinking back, if I would have went to school right out of high school, I wouldn't have done good. And maturity helped me bear down and get it done. I actually got accepted into law school, Concord Law, but I took too long of a break. The master's program, I was in front of the computer working full time. I was in front of the computer for hours and hours. So when I graduated and I took a break, which I shouldn't have done, I had all this extra time in my hand and I was like, man, So when it was time to actually get started, I had to call my advisor and say, I can't do it. It almost set up I wouldn't say a panic attack, but anxiety. And I said, I can't do it, which upset them pretty bad because it's not easy to get into a law school for your doctorate. So,
well, you still can.
I still can. I still can.
Well, 5. I'll ask that same question. 5 years from now, where do you think you'll be?
So 5 years from now, I will. I'll just go ahead and say it. I will be retired from the OSU Police Department, but I probably will be. Like I said, if I go back to school and try to get my doctorate, I might go into legal work or even DA's office or something like that. So.
Or teach.
Teach, yes.
I mean, 'cause it sounds like you'd be really good at that.
Yes.
Okay. So, do you have to retire in 5 years, or is there a
no
age limit?
I can work as long as I want. I have this idea that as a chief of police, I'm really training the guys that want to become a chief of police. And if I stay here too long, I'm taking their opportunity away from reaching their dreams. I have a great group of guys that I work with, 35 officers here. I'm also over the OSU Tulsa campus as well. I have an amazing command staff that is almost superseded my supervision. So it goes to show that these guys are real receptive. They follow my direction and my vision, and they make it happen and do it without having to be over them all the time, which makes me look better and better each day. So all the credit and things like that go to the guys that are really doing the job.
Well, about how long did the average chief stay in that position?
So I'd probably say 7 to 10 years.
Okay.
And, I'd like to go out like Michael Jordan. I'd like to go out while I'm on top and not being ran out with it. So.
Well, working on the OSU campus, what are some of the things that happen most often? I mean, I'm sure it's,
as
petty
far as
theft
crime,
and,
yes.
alcohol, maybe.
Theft, mostly bicycles was a big thing. Bicycle theft, car burglaries. It seemed like things are, getting a little bit more progressive as we go in time because everything's so open. We take arrest for alcohol, DUIs and PIs and things like that. The more that we're really transparent with what we do. So we have a lot of programs that teach alcohol safety, crime prevention programs, even self-defense programs. We do just about all that for anybody that wants a presentation or even want to know what we do in the police department. So last year, I came up with the idea to start a Citizens Academy for students. And so we got together with the sociology department. So students who attend the academy get 3 hours of college credit. Okay. And so this year, this will be the first class we teach in August. And it's actually academy, Citizens Academy for students. Because we want them to know everything we do. From the traffic stops, and we have a new simulator for training in firefights and stuff like that. So shoot, don't shoot scenarios. We're going to have everyone go through that. So my deal is people don't like what they don't know. So we give them a chance to know us. Also, people will do whatever you ask if you ask. And some people don't know what the laws are, so they break them. So we want to let everybody know everything so they have a full picture. And it just makes sense here on campus that we have the opportunity to work with young people before they get set out into the world and start their own life. So
maybe intrigue someone to be sitting in your chair
yes.
25 years from now.
Yes. It'll be a great recruiting tool for us.
And I guess maybe suicide issues become,
yes.
I don't know, the police department may not have anything to do with that, though.
So we started a new program with 2 officers, one from Stillwater and one from OSU, and hopefully one from Payne County will be joining us soon, but it's CIT, and they deal with mental health. So if someone is in a mental crisis, these two officers go in there in plain clothes, and they actually help them either get help, transport them to a mental facility so they can get taken care of. The good part about this whole program is that after the person is back and stable, they follow up with them on a regular basis to make sure that they're still doing okay and if they need anything. So that's been up and running now for about 8 months, and it's been going really good. 'Cause
That is good.
a lot of people don't realize how much of that goes on, especially here in Stillwater with mental health issues. And big part of us as law enforcement, we want everybody's well-being to be okay. And for that to happen, they have to trust us, and we have to go meet them to gain the trust, not just trust us because we're in uniform. So community policing is big in my field, in my area.
Yeah, I would think with COVID may have impacted some of this as well.
Yes. In fact, when everything shut down, they put out a memo to officers: no traffic stops unless it's absolutely necessary. If you have to work an accident, make sure you got your mask and stuff on, and just pretty much only respond to calls, because didn't want to take any unnecessary chances. Because we didn't get to shut down the office, we still had to go to work every day. So things kind of stayed normal for us, but it gave officers the time to just sit back and regroup a little bit and reflect. So I think that helped us.
And changing to something just a little bit, I've noticed a segue once in a while.
Yes. In fact, when I was in the training department, training lieutenant, I purchased 5 Segways. And so we took 2 over to Wichita, or 1 over to Wichita, and then 4 here. So that was supposed to be a big move for community policing, but it worked out really great when I started the core campus division on campus when I got promoted to chief.
They can get where they're going faster?
Yes.
Faster than a bicycle?
Oh, probably about the same, but the Segway, you don't have to exert any.
Oh, that's true. Save your energy for foot chase if you have to.
Yes.
Does that happen very often?
We do have, we do have some.
Okay.
Yes. Which back when I was in the field and I had several myself, it was real exciting. But the exciting part is if you're able to catch. I mean, wasn't very young, and these kids are fast, but we try to stay in great enough shape that we can still keep up when needed. So.
Do you still ride a bike? Not for work, but
yeah, no. Sure. It's been a while since I've rode a bike.
Okay. Probably
2 years now.
Okay. So then let's talk about the connection between the police department and the athletic department a little bit. Does someone travel with the team when they on away games and such?
Yeah, so that was one of my assignments when I got hired when I got back from the academy in '95. My first game that I traveled with the team was Lubbock, Texas.
Oh, close.
Texas Tech. But so I traveled with football for from '95 all the way up to 2006, 2007. I was one of the officers that traveled with them. I was real close with basketball during that time too. So I know I made it a point to go and meet and talk to the athletes, get to know everybody. And in fact, the day before when the basketball team left for Colorado, I went over and I had talked to Jared and Pat Noyes, and just always go over and see them off before the games or something. And I worked a lot of basketball games at home, so it was just part of the assignment.
Well, when you say work, the home games, what would that entail?
So full uniform and crowd control.
Okay. So
we would just monitor the crowd. If anybody got out of control or out of hand, we would go take care of it. A lot of times in football games, it's public intoxication arrest or a fight would break out and we'd have to go break it up. But mostly just watching the crowd, making sure that they are able to enjoy the game without any interruption.
Any particular incidents that you still recall?
Yeah, it's a lot. A lot. I think the first fight that I had to break up, student section, which in the old stadium, Louisville back in the day, that would be the northwest corner of the stadium. I remember looking up and I see these 2 guys just going at it. And so I ran up there and I got one in one hand and one in the other, tell them to break it up. And I looked down and the other officers were just standing there looking at me. And I was like, I'm up here by myself. Come up here and give me a hand. But yeah, we got them down, and we got down to the next level. We were talking to the one individual who obviously started the fight, and he started fighting with us, 3 officers. So we had to take him down in the middle of the crowd and handcuff him and haul him out. And afterwards, people was coming up and said, "Was he actually trying to fight you guys?" He actually took a swing at me, which dug back, and it was just I could feel the wind as it go by my face, and I was like, "Wow." I'm still fairly new at this, and I was like, "Wow, guys are brave." So,
had they taught you how to respond to something like that if someone comes at you?
yes, the self-defense class taught in the academy, but then we go extensively over some more techniques to use when we got back in finished field training. So,
was it usually guys?
Yes, yes, and a lot of the time it was the liquid courage that got them the alcohol that would courage give them make them think that they could get away with whatever. So.
Well, and now about a couple of years ago, they started allowing selling yes. alcohol. Has that changed?
That helped us out tremendously. Things started getting a little bit out of hand with as far as people arriving at the game intoxicated. We were responding to people passed out at the gates before they even got into the game. So when they started selling the alcohol inside the stadium, it helped out quite a bit because now people can drink while they're watching the game, where before they would come in drunk or leave at halftime and try to pound as many as they could before we come back in. So arrest inside the stadium went down tremendously.
Well, do any of the games themselves stand out? I mean, being into sports yourself, do you have any just memorable moments for you?
So, like I said, I've been fortunate a lot here, and I worked on the sidelines for a while. So I was Bob Simmons' security officer. That was with him, and then I moved to the visiting team side, and I was the visiting team security officer for a lot of years. So all the games, I can just about remember every last one of them for the last 26 years. And a lot of incidents that happened. One was a media guy got into a shove match as the coach after the game was over with, and a Wyoming coach, I'm trying to remember his name, I was talking to him, and he's like, I kind of have a bubble, and if you can't help keep the bubble clear, I don't want people like right up on me. I said, no problem. He said, but I want you with me. So after the game, we're running over to shake Miles' hand, Coach Miles' hand, and the camera dude kept running into me. And I was trying to kind of push him back, and he just kept doing it. And finally, I just pushed him off of me really hard, and he turns the camera on me, and it's live. And all they saw my friends calling my cell phone. Said my face was right in the camera, my eyes was real big. They couldn't see they couldn't hear what I said. But the phone was ringing, and after I got done, I called him back. And he's like, man, you looked really, really upset. What was going on? They said all they saw was just this, my eyes real big, and I had my hat on. So
you have business.
Yeah. So one of the guys took a screenshot of it and sent it to me. But it's like, wow. But then the incident with Marcus Smart down in Texas Tech when he pushed the fan, that was me that took him off the court. So that kind of solidified my position with the basketball team when I started traveling with them. So that was an interesting moment because Smart was upset.
Yeah, for reason.
The officers after the game come up and they say, man, we're glad that you were here because could you imagine one of us trying to grab him, somebody he didn't know? And when it first took place, I remember Markel Brown going over to Marcus like, man, what are you doing? And he just, shoved his hand off of him. I was like, oh, man, I got to get him off this court. And after the game was over with, the fans rushed the court. And I was walking off with them like, let's go. And somebody came by and said something to him that was not good. And so he turned around like he was getting ready to go at them. And that's when I grabbed him and just pushed him off the court. as fast as I can get him off. So, and got him in the locker room, and went back out and made sure all the other guys was in the locker room and safe. And after the game, there were a tremendous amount of fans still outside waiting for him to come out so he can yell and scream or whatever they wanted to at him. So I got over to the campus police there. Says there's another way out because I don't want to walk through this crowd with him. We don't know what's going to happen. So we went down through the basement and up the other side. Got him on the bus before they even knew what had happened. So went back down. Got the coach after his it was Coach Ford after his interview press conference, and we all walked out. And as the bus was taking off, you can hear several fans like, "Where's Smart? Where's Smart?" He's pounding on the bus a little bit. So yeah.
And some fans are just are not really fans,
right?
Are they?
No. And I say this, not sure if I should, but out of all my years of working, and they have gotten a lot better, but Lubbock was probably one of the rowdiest fan base I've ever seen. Not rowdy and good, just not nice.
Not OU.
The next OU is next. OU incident with Miles was we went there to play. We lost the game, I believe, but we were trying to walk him off the field, and it was a fan that was leaning over the top of the fence where we were walking in, reached down and swatted at him. Well, it caught the top of his hat and knocked his hat off, and it was like we're trying to block him as much as we could. People spitting and stuff, and well, one of the troopers that was walking with us threw his hand up and accidentally slapped the kid. And we got Miles into the locker room. It's like, can you believe that just happened? I mean, these guys are crazy. And anyway, the trooper, he was under investigation for slapping the kid. It was a total accident. But the kid's father was the one that reached down to hit Miles. And so, in just a reflection, the trooper threw his hands up. And the kid was leaning over the fence as well and accidentally slapped the kid. So we got that all taken care of. But it's just the smallest incidents in certain turns out to be really big. And it was always something that kept us on our toes every game.
Yeah, different each time. Well, the unknown, I guess. Being prepared for the unknown.
Billy Tubbs, when he was the coach at OU, when I first started here, he was mouthy. And we wore kind of a cowboy style hat during our winter sports. And George Lupton, I believe it was the officer that was assigned to Billy Tubbs. OU loses the game. Billy Tubbs is upset, and he takes the officer's hat off and throws it. And so this is probably like the third or fourth game I've worked as an officer. So I was like, can he do that? How come we're not arresting the coach for, assaulting his officers? But yeah, it was just something, just the littlest things you remember a lot about that made a significant impact in your life.
Well, with Marcus Smart and the players, do they come back and do you have a chat?
Yeah, they just about. Oh man, I met so many guys over the years, and even students that are not athletes. But when people come back to town, a lot of them make it a point to come by and see me. So
that makes
me feel good.
Yeah.
It made me feel good that somehow I might have touched them, impacted their life a little. So.
Okay, so let's just go on and move into January 27th, 2001. Take us through that day for you.
So, say I was working evening shift, which is a 2:45 to 11:15 shift. I remember working. My best friend Dustin Orell was an officer here too. I'm trying to remember who the other officer was. There was three of us on duty, and everything seemed to go well. That throughout, every time I'd get an opportunity to look at the TV to see how we were doing, or listening on the radio to see how the team was doing. Later on in the evening, after the game, we went out, we was patrolling, went back to the squad room, take a lunch break, and dispatcher transferred at Carlton. So I answered. I was a sergeant at the time. So Sergeant Jones, and it was a reporter from Chicago asking about the plane crash with the OSU basketball team. We hadn't heard anything. So I was like, I'll have to get back with you on this. Hadn't heard, but I got to find out. So hung up the phone, and all kinds of stuff was going through my head. And I called Lieutenant Altman, who was my direct supervisor at the time, and asked him, I said, man, I just heard that OSU plane crashed, carrying the basketball team. Have you heard anything? He's like, no, hadn't heard nothing. Why don't you go up to the airport, see what you can find out? So I called Dustin. I said, hey, let's go up to the airport and see what we can find out. And they just said, that OSU plane crash. And in my mind, it was the whole team. So I didn't know they were on separate flights. So we get to the airport just in time, I think. Can't remember who else was there, representative of OSU. So Joyce, she was one of the administrative assistants for football. She was there, and she was crying. And looked at the manifest, and I was like, okay, we got 3 planes. Which one went down? See, 2 of them had already landed. The guys were back at their rooms, and I think the coaches was home. So all of a sudden, everybody starts showing up at the airport. And they said, well, you guys stay here, help us with crowd control if needed. It's like, yes. And when they started calling off the names of the people that were on the plane, I knew all very personally, except for 2. And that was the pilot and co-pilot. And so everything was moving so fast, I never did get a chance emotionally to soak it in. They said my shift was supposed to end at 11:15. We were there at the airport till about 1, I believe. No, maybe 12. Everybody moved over to Cardell Hall so they can try to put together a plan on what needs to happen next. So if everybody migrated over there, went back to the station, and got out of my uniform and stuff, and was getting ready to walk out when Captain Ty called me back in. And him and Chief Eden said, would you be willing to go to Colorado as the liaison for the university? And I said, sure. What am I expected to do? And they kind of lined out on what they thought, mostly getting the property, OSU property and things. And they said, we'll have a car ready for you. I said, how long is it going to take? Because back then OSU was a reimbursed type thing. So I'd get up there. I had a car to get gas from the police department, but I wasn't really making that much money then. So I was married and had the 2 kids. So I said, I hope it don't take more than 2 days because my credit card ain't going to handle that at the hotel and food and stuff. They said it won't take more than 2 days. I said, okay, we'll have a car ready for you in the morning when you get here about 7. And we'll get you on your way. Well, about 6 o'clock, the phone rings at home. And then it's Captain Ty, and he says, changing plans. How quickly can you get here? I'll be on my way. So I get there, and they explain to me that plans have changed. We're flying to Colorado. Dr. Bosselman and a representative from athletics, Carter Mason, and myself were going up there. I was going to be the liaison for the university and law enforcement to try to get the property and stuff back. Also, I was tasked with calling the family members and finding out what the guys had packed so we can identify them and make sure we get the right person. And so all this is going through my head, and I'm like, wow. They already rented a couple of cars for you when you get up there. You'll work with try to get in touch with the TSB or whoever's going to be operating the county agencies there. And so I never did really have a chance to slow down. Then I went home that night, got in bed about 3, and back up at 6, heading to Colorado. So we drive over to Tulsa, and Now, by really my first time getting the opportunity to meet Dr. Bosselman and have a conversation with him. I knew who he was. I worked with his wife for many years at the Family Resource Center. And Carter Mason is the first time I ever met him. So the feeling that we had as we're driving over and trying to just break the ice, hey, how you doing? And trying to carry on a conversation, but at the same time, all of us was looking at each other like, what are we getting ready to see? What's getting ready to happen? And I remember my mom calling on cell phone. And I answered, hey, Mom. And she says, hey, I'm glad we finally got through because we know you travel with the team. And so we thought maybe she was on one of those planes. No, I'm not. I'm okay. She said, you sound strange. What's the matter? I said, just headed to Colorado, see what we can do to help. And she said, well, how are you getting there? And I said, well, we're flying. She said, what? So she was kind of upset. I remember, talking to her, calming her down. Everything's fine. We're taking a commercial flight. And I'll let you know when we land. So we get over to Tulsa. And thank goodness I packed for 7 days. Mm. Thank goodness, because they thought it was going to be 2 or 3 day trip. And so we get on the plane, and the plane was fairly empty. It was probably about 6 to 10 people on the plane. So we had plenty of room to stretch out. And as we're flying into Colorado, I'm looking down and there's snow on the ground. And I'm taking deep breaths, I just didn't know what was going to happen. I knew what I was assigned to do. And really emotionally, I just didn't have the opportunity to slow down and think about anything. And so work mode just stayed kicked in for 7 days. So we landed, we got the rental cars, when he got checked into the hotel. And then we went over to the victims center that they had set up at a high school. It was a cafeteria. And a member of the NTSB comes in, and he's their kind of like their counselor. And he's telling us about the scene and what to expect during this whole thing with information-wise. Benson, the head NTSB investigators, they all come in. And we were wanting to offer our assistance as best we could. But at first they were like, nope, here's where we'll do our press conference. You'll get the information when everybody else gets it. And it's like, okay, so we just went over to the Strasburg. It was the coroner's office. We met with the funeral home director, introduced ourselves, and like I said, everybody in Colorado was great, sympathetic, and willing to do whatever we needed. So we get back to Denver, and I'm sitting in the hotel room. It's really early. I was getting a little antsy. So I was like, I'm going to go down to the bar and have a drink. So went downstairs, and it was probably 8:30 or so whenever the group from the NTSB shows up with their bags. And the head guy, they went in, checked in and everything, and they come back down to the bar. And they were over the table talking and laughing. And the head guy, Benson, he comes over and he says, you were at the press conference today. I said, yes. You're OSU? I said, yes, I'm Sergeant Jones, OSU Police Department. He said, come over and join us. So I went over and introduced myself to everybody, and we talked. And we called it a night. The next morning, my phone rings in my room. It's him. And he says, we want you to join us. We'll give you a tour of the scene and all this stuff. And that's when I more or less said, all of us, well, Dr. Bosselman, be happy to join you. That's what we were there for, offer whatever assistance we could. So that's how that got started. And then we went out to the scene. It was so cold, snow and ice on the ground. They had already removed the players, and then getting ready to remove the plane. But they had to take pictures and catalog everything. So had to catalog everything. So we got to walk the hole and explain what could have happened. And it was just kind of a weird feeling for me. I'm still like 6 years into law enforcement and already, the Murrah Building bombing, the plane crash, but I was still in work mode. So it was just kind of weird. I remember going back to the SUV that we'd rented, and I turned around and looked at the scene, but they had buses and they had like first they put a line of cars across to block the scene because the media was there and they didn't want them to be showing certain things, which was a great idea. But I remember turning around and looking, and all I kept thinking about was I got to get these guys home. And they were out there walking in the field waiting for us to get them home. So each one that we sent home, they would get to go to the rest of the place. But until we got all 10 guys home, they would be walking that field. And that was the image I had in my head from that day. So we go over to the morgue, and we started making phone calls, finding out what the guys were wearing. I remember initially when they had all the guys there, they thought it was 11 guys on the plane, but it was just 10. And Dr. Bosserman went in with the doctor because they have to do what they do when they're there. And I kept thinking to myself, I don't want to go in here, but I need to, just because, one, it's what I said I'd do. And it's for the families. Well, nothing to do with me. But I wanted to make sure that I did my part by sending the right person home. And so we'd call the family members and they would let us know where they wanted to have the loved one sent. And so the 7 days, it took that full 7 days. I remember loss of his mom. She really couldn't accept it. And we understood that. And so if it would have taken her 2 weeks, we would have been there for 2 weeks. But we wanted to make sure that we did the right thing. So the next day we go out to the scene, and I'm helping the NTSB when they were picking up personal property, OSU property. I remember picking up a attaché case, and it was like foam coming out. And I went over to the NTSB guy and said, "Hey, this looked like the whatever it was, shaving cream. It's all over the place in here." And he takes it, they open it up, and it was, it kind of like exploded. He said, "This explains a lot." So we take that with him, and we get all the stuff back to the morgue, and we're kind of packaging it up so we can send it down to Houston so they can do a bio clean on stuff. And I remember picking up a laptop that didn't seem like it was that damaged, but then you looked at other stuff and it was tremendously damaged. One of the quarters were bent. It was just it's all I can say is just an experience. The experience for me, which set me on another path in my career. But I was just in work mode for 7 days. I didn't stop. I didn't allow it to be turned off even when we were sleeping at night. We'd work for 11, 12 hours a day, back and forth. They got the plane picked up and took it over to Greeley. I remember they had Patrick Swayze. He had just had a plane crash. He survived, but they had his plane there doing the investigation as well. But one of the engineers with NTSB, me and him became really good friends. So he walked me through everything and explained it all to me, how they recreate this whole thing. And it was I learned a lot. I am glad that I did go. And it's the least I could do. But each day that we experienced, there was always something new. We got to see a lot of different stuff, and I drove a lot because it was kind of like a triangle where the crash scene, morgue, Greeley Airport, and so we just constantly back and forth and going and going and going. And finally, on that, I believe it's a Sunday, Dr. Bosselman called us and said that we're sending Lawson home. So after that, we booked our flight and headed back to Stillwater. And it was, like I said, finally things started slowing down in my head a little bit. Then started, I don't know, emotions started flowing through. And meanwhile, I know they had already had some services here for the guys, the Gallagher Eye, but when we landed in Tulsa, we was getting in the car to drive home. I just remember feeling this close bond with Dr. Bosselman and Carter Mason. Just, we had some funny times up there while we were doing our job. Carter provided quite a bit of comic relief, not intentionally, but his personality is great. But we were able to have some laughs, and we were able to do some, discussing. The coroner's office had, I wouldn't say an intervention, but all of us that was there at the scene, the county's sheriff's office and everybody had a counseling session. And this was midway through. So I'd say probably Thursday. We all got in and we talked and what we felt. So it was good to have that session. And like I said, when we landed in Tulsa, coming back to Stillwater, we all knew we just had this bond that would never go away. And we left going to Colorado, 3 people that didn't know a thing about each other. But when we were returning, we were brothers. And so having that and knowing that I can call Dr. Bosselman or Carter and vice versa helped us kind of get through a lot, because when I got back, it did change me. I got quiet. I didn't realize the impact that it had on me. And in fact, I see Chad today, and him and his brother look so much alike. And I had to catch myself not to say Jerry, but I kind of went inside myself for like 2 years. Dr. Burks was a head counseling person here at the time. And she had sessions with all the families. But for me, the sessions wasn't that I didn't want to do them. I didn't want to talk about it. And in a way, we wasn't supposed to talk about it, because the things that I saw, I don't want to talk about. I don't mind talking about them now. Back then, I didn't want to say something wrong in the family members here. It would just be disrespectful. And certain things they didn't need to know. And Dr. Burks wanted a deck built on our house because we've become pretty good friends. And I told her, I built decks. And she said, would you come out and build it? So not knowing what she was doing, that was my therapy. So me and my brother went out and built this deck, which took a week. And that was my therapy. So for 2 years, though, probably about 2 years, I continued to work, continued to do what I was supposed to do. But then I realized that that affected me a lot more than I thought it did. And I hid it pretty well from everybody because they never knew it. And eventually, when I finally decided, I better at least talk to somebody about this, so I called Dr. Burks, talked to her, and all of a sudden, the doors opened up again. So I become myself again for me. And that was kind of a blur in a way after we returned. The 2 years went by. We had some things that happened on campus. that never want to be emotionally shut down again, like I was for 2 years. But yeah, made it through it, and now it's the greatest learning lesson for me was being able or being chosen or being asked to go do that helped me more than in my career and personally than I ever thought it would.
Sounds like your faith may have had some helped you some through that too.
Yeah. So when you sent me the email about this, I was all about it because now we can talk about it.
20 years later.
20 years later, it was.
But it seems like yesterday in some respects.
In fact, when I was building the deck for Susie, ESPN had called and wanted to do a story over the plane crash, and administration had turned it down because it was really soon. But at the same time, it was we don't talk about it. There's certain things that we just didn't talk about. A lot of it was for fear I'd get in trouble with the university if I said certain things about what happened. But now we can talk about it, and that's good. And we don't want to forget. We don't want to not let everybody know what happened either, you know. So it's good that we are talking. Yeah. But it was an experience.
Surreal.
Yeah. From the time that I got the phone call from the reporter to the next week, 2 years. It was just
so you would have missed the memorial service in the Gallagher because you would have still been there.
Yep.
And then, so were you able to go into any of the funerals, or was that even something that you would have done?
I didn't get to. Some had already taken place.
Yeah.
And when I got back, I knew a lot of the officers that I worked with would have a lot of questions. I knew that a lot of people that I know would have a lot of questions that I didn't want to answer. So I stayed away from people. And that wasn't right, because being able to just discuss things with my fellow officers or even family members or friends probably would have kept me on track and not send me into that little hole for 2 years that I was in. So, but like I said, nobody knew. They just knew I became a little bit withdrawn, but they didn't think there was anything wrong with my personality. I was still me. But for me, when I finally woke up out of that little spell, I had realized what I had done. And so I go back and I, talk to everybody and say, I'm sorry I did this. The coping skills, I guess, which for me, I don't want to say it's like a coward's way out or nothing, but it was my way of not wanting to let anybody in my business, I guess. I didn't want to talk about that with anybody other than Dr. Bosselman and Carter. That was our moment. And we got to see some stuff that never would be able to explain to anybody else, so I didn't even want to try. So.
I think Dr. Bosselman has moved from, isn't he now?
Yeah, we still stay in touch. Because to me, it was an assignment. They credited me with doing something great, which to me, it was just an assignment. I mean, they thanked me, but no thanks was needed. We're family. That's what we do. Because if it wasn't for OSU, I wouldn't have this opportunity to be who I am today. So anything I can give back, I always do.
Well, then I'm assuming you went to when they dedicated the memorial.
Yes.
In Colorado.
So
August.
That was I was the lead train. I took an OSU patrol unit up there, and I was I wore uniform, so I led the parade back from Denver over to the memorial. So when we contacted Mr. Prater, the guy that donated the land, great dude. And the last time I went to the memorial, there were a lot of building that, but they had sold off quite a few of the property, and they had houses and stuff built around it. But back then it was just open field. And went in and talked to him in his house, and he's like, whatever you need, it's yours. Donate the land, do whatever you want to it. It's yours. Great, great people. And so we went out there and we plotted, and I was thinking, oh, we'll have a little marker here, what have you. I didn't realize that memorial was going to be so extravagant. It's big, it's nice, it's beautiful, and it's very fitting. And so it's very well done. And yeah, I need to get back up there to see it again. It's probably been about 6 years since I've been back.
You go for the anniversaries for a while.
Yeah, we were making trips back and forth for somebody from here would do it. So I would try to do it every other year.
Okay.
But yeah, when we went back up to dedicate the memorial, it was a group of us here from OSU. I think I led almost 6 vehicles, a van, and some others up there. And then the day of the dedication, I led the parade. And Colorado gave me the approval to run licensed sirens, lead everybody back to the memorial spot. So.
Did you establish a relationship with the first responders or your counterpart in the town?
Every one of them. In fact, we still talk today. Most that some after the plane crash, had seen what they saw, they left their jobs after that. Like Jeff Thane and Rachel, I wish I could pronounce her last name correctly, so I won't. There's several of us that still are in touch and talk quite often through Facebook or some other kind of communication.
Do you have any idea of why they selected you to be one to go?
So I've always been credited with good people skills to talk. I believe Chief Eaton, when they asked me to go, they knew I would be there in a networking capacity to help, because I wasn't going there as an investigator for OSU. I wasn't going there to do nothing other than assist and cooperate and do the best we can to get everybody home and the property. So I think when they saw me that night getting ready to go home, they said that he'd probably be the best person to go. So the confidence level, I mean, that they did choose me, I still would need to ask them that. I never did ask them why they actually chose me to go. All I know is if the university needed me, I was there.
It sounds like they trusted you to be able to keep the confidential things that needed to be kept confidential as well.
Yeah, because it was I remember calling Tom Dorado every day, just those his involvement in it, just being a friend to him, and I'd call my boss, Lieutenant Altman at the time, kind of fill him in on what our day was like. Of course, had to call and check in and let him know when we started the day and when we ended the day. But it was a looking back, probably one of those moments in time that you wish wouldn't have happened, but it was an experience for me that put me on that path that I was destined to be on.
And you still decided to stay in Stillwater after that too. So, do you have any special memories you want to share about the players or people that you knew on the plane that you had relationships with?
So, like I said, I knew Jared and Pat quite and talked to Bill Teagan on and on. Hancock, I knew him personally. Now, just in passing, we'd stop and shake hands and say a few words. But Pat Noyes, he traveled with me, or I traveled with him when he was a manager with football as well. So when we get the team to the hotel room and get everybody down before we start my portion of the travel, keeping people from bothering the guys while they're sleeping, get ready for the next day, we would go down and get something to eat. And this night, well, I remember evening where we went to Baylor, Pat Noyes, and I would hope we was playing foosball or something. But yeah, we were always, whenever we saw each other, we'd actually, joke around and laugh and talk. And the same with Jared. So before they left that day to go to Colorado, I actually stopped by and shook their hand and told them, bring back a win. And, but yeah, it was the couple of years that I did know them and lost him. Just a great kid, basketball player. Fleming, super nice. Talk to them. I'd go over and watch practice and just kind of, I don't know, made myself available for anybody that had any questions of us as law enforcement, trying to break down the walls of us against them kind of a deal, because a sense that a lot of people that come from different areas never trusted law enforcement. So my role is not only to make friends, but to give them a different aspect of what we do as law enforcement. So that's why I stayed a lot involved in a lot of the students' lives or athletes. So
Play horse with them.
back in the day, we used to shoot hoops a little bit, yeah. Back when I was in good enough shape to keep up with them.
Well, preparing for this, I was reading something that I didn't know if people did, was the manager's team.
Yes.
I mean, I didn't have a clue about that.
So this was, well, I'm trying to date myself whenever I played on the manager's team a couple of years with Keaton Page and even Coach Bowen. John
Well, that's
Holcomb.
been pretty recent.
Yeah.
With
Coach Bowen. It was when he was an assistant coach then. And so 4 years ago, 5 years.
That's recent.
Yeah, I played a couple of years with the management team. We'd get to our destination, and that evening after everybody gets settled down and before I start my assignment, we would go play against the managers of the school. Yeah. And it was actually pretty extensive. They kept scores,
Serious.
championship games, stuff like that. So yeah, they declared a winner, almost like a basketball season. Like the Big 12 conference. So there's a Big 12 managers game conference.
That's pretty neat. I think. Yeah. Camaraderie
Yep.
and still team building and stuff. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
And something to do with your free time in between games, I guess.
Right. And I was probably 40 something years old at the time when I was out there doing that. Right at 50, actually. Yeah. So stay in shape.
Still in shape
Yep.
for your job too. Then.
Yep.
Yeah. So how do you stay in shape today? Do you jog or
not as much jogging anymore as it was? I do a lot of walking. I got to get back in the gym and start lifting. I had to learn to slow down just a little bit because more injuries set in. So last time I was lifting, I pulled a tendon or something there, which shut me down for
that good old age thing comes in,
yes,
doesn't it?
yes. And I still, mind-wise, I still feel really good. But I got to remember that staying in shape don't always mean that you have to lift 1,000 pounds. So.
Nope. Okay, so August was the dedication, and then September 11th happened that same year.
Yes.
Do you recall anything regarding that for the campus?
So
Campus-wise?
I was working night shift at the time. I'd just gotten home and got out of my uniform and got into bed. And my wife had come in, and it was probably around 9 or so, I guess. Trying to remember what time it was. And she said, "So you watching this?" And she turned the TV on. And by the time she turned the TV on, that second plane that went, "What is it? Is this a movie or something?" And she said, "No, this is actually real." So I got up and put my uniform back on. And as I was putting my gun belt on, the phone rang. Needed to come back into work. So on my way. We come in and we were stationed on certain buildings on campus because we didn't know what kind of terrorist attack it was. And we have a lot of students from that was being harassed because of their nationality. And as I'm driving down the road, I saw my student walking down the sidewalk, and these kids are yelling at him as they're driving by the truck. So I go ahead and pull them over and have a chat with them, explain they shouldn't do it. They were real receptive to it. Went back and checked on the kid, make sure he was all right. He was just, I'm just going home, getting back to my residence hall. So hop in, take you over there. And just had a chat with him, make him feel more secure. But there was 3 long days of watching or stationed at certain areas on campus and not really knowing what was. But watching that was like, are you kidding me? So in my mind, as you can imagine, Murrah Building bombing, plane crash, now 911. In a way, I'm like, what is going on? Why am I experiencing all of this? And it's not just me experiencing it, but in a way, it is just me in this area of my career, my job, the people I work around. It's because I was in Oklahoma City when this happened in Murrah Building. I actually went to Colorado to help get everybody home. So I got to experience something that these guys, they hear about, but they wasn't there. So my mind was rolling in a different way than theirs when 911 hit. And also Dr. Bosselman, he just got on a flight and headed home from that area before they locked down all the flights and stuff. So yeah, it was just crazy. And so digesting all that stuff and trying to just figure out what do we need to do to make sure everything is protected and safe, and then convincing myself that this is just the times, this is just happening. It's nothing to do with me. In a way, when I say it's nothing to do with me, meaning that why is all this stuff happening around you? Why is this stuff so happening and you're so close to it? Didn't want to make it like a negative side of things that you need to go back into hiding because something's coming to get you. I didn't want to be that. So answered the questions, asked a lot of questions, talked about it. And it was okay.
Did it make you change your mind to get out of police work?
No, it made me focus more. So, like I say, after I come out of the little 2-year hiatus I had, my heart was filled with love, and every person I come in contact with, I wanted positive. Don't care if they don't like me or not, but smile and greet. And if I get the opportunity to talk to them, I'm going to let them know who I am, and we'll go from there. But I don't hardly walk past anybody without eye contact, speaking to them, because each contact that you make in your life is a gift from God. So,
good approach.
So yeah, it was just all this stuff made me focus even more on work. Made me drive even harder to become a chief, which I didn't think I could do it. Or I didn't think I'd have the opportunity. I knew I could do it. So I can make the changes that I think would help us and the community be one. So maybe we can combat this stuff that's happening, this evil. If people can trust us, they will call us. And if we work together, we can make it a lot safer than working against each other. So that's my push.
Try to improve the culture, really. But can you tell when you're looking back from your first week here on campus to now, Can you see changes?
Oh yeah, yeah. In fact, the campus community is one of the greatest, and they trust us. They allow us to be part of the community, and today more than ever. So when I first started, technology wasn't there. We didn't. We kind of all we did was showed up, arrest people, and they gone. Things like that. We never was personable, and it's almost like we were kind of trained that way. Watch out for everybody because this person, you never know who's going to try to kill you. Even most of the training videos we were watching back then was officers being shot at or being picked on or something. And it was the tactical videos basically said, be careful when you do this. The most dangerous part of a law enforcement officer's job is walking up to a car that he just pulled over for some type of violation. Never know if that person is a killer that's going to turn around and shoot at you. And they have videos showing us that stuff. Even in domestic violence cases, one of the most dangerous responses law enforcement officers can make is a domestic. Because while he's in there arresting the abuser, the victim returned and try to kill you themselves. So learning a lot about that make you kind of go, be skeptical of everybody that you meet. For me, we train a lot. So when it's time to go into full law enforcement mode, I can flip the switch and do it. I don't need to have that switch on all the time. And so it helped us open up a lot more as we move forward in time. Policing back then in that era, it fit the model. Today, that style of policing wouldn't fit this model of today and how we live today. So getting officers to relax, open up, and just being part of the community you already live in. I mean, just because you put the uniform on don't change who you are. So continue being who you are, knowing that you have a task that you have to perform. And when you have to perform the task, just do it. And when you come back from doing that, return to officer friendly or whatever they want to call it, but be yourself.
It's kind of hard to do sometimes too, more recently with all the things that were going on between.
Yes. Yes. I think we had some officers. We try to stay involved in a lot of stuff on campus, special events. And we had the Martin Luther King celebration last year. And there was a lot of people that came into town that just didn't like cops. And so when they saw several officers out, a couple of people walk up and say, "Why are y'all killing us, man?" Stuff like that. And so officers here, talk to them, explain what they're doing. Friendly, hey, how you doing? Can I get your name? Or not get your name to write in the book, but, I'm Officer Jones. How you doing? Shake your hand. Hey, enjoy the day. If you have any problems, come see us. And so they kind of started breaking down the walls a little bit. Yeah, we still got a long way to go, but it changes the dynamics when we open the doors first. Like the students here, I would like for every student to come over to the police department and visit and show them what we do. But they're busy. They're going to school. I mean, they got a lot of stuff. So we go meet them and be the first person to stick my hand out and say, "Hey, I'm Leon Jones. How's things going?" or what have you, just to break the ice and say, "I don't know if you ever talked to a law enforcement officer before. Here's the opportunity to do it." And guess what? Tomorrow I might not be in uniform, and we're going to carry on the same conversation. So, but if you ever have a problem, call us. So it's just been a fun 26 years.
Have you had to escort the president?
So interesting. So my first year in, I think Bill Clinton had just came in and he had left. Then Bush.
Okay.
Young Bush Jr. He came and spoke at a graduation. What was that, 2007?
Something like that.
The interesting part about that, when I went to the FBI Academy, George Bush showed up at the academy. He was the first president that ever came to the academy. So basically, it kind of it threw our schedules off. But he showed up at the academy, came in and did a speech to all us newcomers, and I actually got to stand next to the man and talk to him. And then I get back here, and he comes to speak at a graduation. So I'm right off the stage, like right next to his podium where he's going to speak. That was my station there. So then when he came here to throw the first pitch, we had 2 presidents visit in 1 week last month. So George Bush came here, he's former president, threw out the first pitch. And then we went over to Wichita for the 100th year anniversary of the race massacre. And I got to stand close to President Biden, which was kind of cool. And our biggest part was the sigh of relief when they left, because they came in, they remained safe the whole time they were here, no incidents, and they head out. So he's like,
You're famous people that you've met or rubbed elbows with.
And during the course of time here, I think the first person I met was Bill Cosby during Orange Peel. The very first Orange Peel, I got assigned to be Bill Cosby's security. It's like fresh out of the academy in '95. I was like, wow. So got the picture with him and everything. And then after that, I got to meet so many people: James Earl Jones, Felicia Rashad, Mike Ditka, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Al Franken, Jane Goodall. Oh man, I got photos with all of them too. So
Gotta have Garth Brooks in there somewhere.
yeah, Garth Brooks, Alan Jackson, Sinbad. There was a guy, Jeff Foxworthy. Yeah.
So you still need Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan, yes. I didn't get to meet with Shaq. Now I did get to meet with Christopher Reeve before he passed away. He had already had his accident, and he came and did a speech to the guy driving. Yeah, wow. So
That's a perk of being one of the perks.
Yeah. Yes, it was. I sometimes remind myself that I do get to experience a lot of things.
There's good and bad. Yeah. Finding that balance is hard sometimes. I
Yeah.
guess.
This bad happens, something very, very good happens to balance it out. So.
And then come 2011, when the second plane crashed in Arkansas, it was a little bit different since it was just not just, but it was four people that time. Did you have any involvement with that?
So I remember waking up that morning just feeling different. Went over to my neighbor's house. I always would go over there and have coffee with him before I go to work. I went over to have coffee with him, and Dr. Burks called on the phone. And all she said was, well, but it happened again. And I knew exactly what she was talking about. I said, who was it? And she told me. I said, man, I worked at women's basketball game the day before. Mm-hmm. And so I knew Cerna, but I didn't get to talk to her that day. But as she was walking out on the court, we just like eye contact and, basically. And she walked on over to the bench. And after the game was over with, went on about our business, went home. And when she told me who it was, I was like, oh, man. So I went on into work. I would have hit and packed a bag. And went on into work, and I was sitting in the office when, at the time then, it was Captain Altman, who was lieutenant, still my supervisor. He said, well, as you know, you're considered the expert now that you've been to Colorado and dealt with this. We want you to go to Arkansas. I said, okay. When do I need to leave? He said, as soon as you go. And it was different. We drove. I had a representative from OSU athletics at the time, Sean Raines, with me. And it was a lot different when I got to Arkansas. And I don't mean this in a disrespectful way or anything, but the rural area versus what we dealt with in Colorado, a whole culture shift. Colorado, Oklahoma, and then Arkansas, and it was very rural. The sheriff department, of course, met with one of the sheriffs there. They drive us down this long road. And this one was different from me because I knew it was in an area where there wasn't very many black people. So I was like, I don't know how I'm going to be treated, but we'll get through it. And so I did tell Sean, I said, now, man, if I hear some banjos playing, I'm out of here. Right? Just a joke. But so one of the guys that was helping with the recovery, his phone rings and it's there. And I looked at Sean, I was like, but we get there and remember meeting with the deputy sheriff, super nice guy, talking with him, and he's explaining everything to me. The NTSB group that was there, I guess nobody let them know that we were coming as to help or liaisons. So I just asked him, I said, will I be able to go up and take a look? And almost like it offended him or something. He's like, why do you need to go up there? And I don't know. It's like, okay, well, I mean any offense by it. Just the next day, I go back out there to the command post that had set up the command area. And he comes over and he's like, why are you still here? You need closure? And I said, I'm actually here on assignment. He said, well, who do you work for? I said, OSU Police, right on the shirt. Oh, OSU Police? I said, yeah. I'm went to Colorado on the 2001 plane crash. And I'm here to offer any assistance I can, but to try to get the property and things of OSU back. Whole attitude changed after that. So he took me up on the hill, so I got to walk the scene and help him recover stuff. And that one was a 3-day trip. Went home that night, or got a hotel room in Little Rock, and we watched a football game against Iowa State. Finished watching that. Woke up the next morning and headed back up to the crash site. They recovered the plane, got everything up, and hauled it off to the airport so they can do their job. And then that was pretty much it. And we came home, and I did have all the property and stuff that I had to bring back to the PD. And we had to go through all of it and catalog it and mark everything. And it was different this time because the guys over in Arkansas gave out my personal cell phone number to the family members and the insurance people. So my phone was ringing. And I didn't know who it would be. And back then, I would answer every phone call that came in. So this unknown number showed up, and really not knowing who it was, I answered it. And it was Sergeant's mom. And she was asking me all kinds of questions I legally couldn't answer. And I tried to explain to her the best I could. So that was like 2 weeks of like trying to figure out how to navigate through the phone calls. Well, I didn't say anything wrong that was going to cause any issues for the university, but any issues for the family as well. So the second crash helped me in ways of putting the first crash in a lot of perspective of how I acted afterwards, after the first one. The second one was, although just as tragic, I reacted a lot different. So, and then afterward, it became somewhat of a teaching moment for me, for others. So, start opening up and talking more about it with my fellow law enforcement officers. So, if something was to happen and I didn't go. At least they'd have a little background on what needs to happen if they got chosen.
Have you been asked to do that in other places?
I did. I have not as often. I think up until recently, people were still a little, that's a off subject matter.
Mhm.
But the more and more people realized, there for a while they didn't realize that I was on the trip. Now they did print it in the newspaper, which freaked out a few people because they called me and said, "You okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Well, we saw your name in the newspaper. We just thought you was involved on the plane. I said, "No, I'm in Colorado working with NTSB." So yeah, it's now that people realize, and faces have changed a lot around OSU. So people come in and they get to hear the history about the plane crash and the 10 that was involved, but they didn't get to hear the history about the people that actually were involved. So as that story is getting told a lot more now, I do have people call me and either just thank me or say, want to talk about any of it. And I'm a lot more open to it now.
And I think they would be interested in lessons learned too,
Yes.
how they might, if you do anything differently.
Yep. And we did that after action report when I got back here. Now, Arkansas was really different because normally all the property that they give us, we sign a receipt. Okay, it's leaving your hands. Well, it wasn't an actual investigation into a death or murder or anything like that. So to them, it was just, here you go. Threw it in the back of the trunk of the car, It's like, do I need to sign anything? They said no. So I said, well, do you have a list of everything that's in the bags and stuff? Nope. Well, me filling out a receipt really don't do me any good because I don't know what's in there. But I did take a picture and say, okay, here are the bags the way they were handed to me. And they're locked in the trunk. And this is the same condition they came to Stillwater. So I hadn't touched them. I hadn't went through them anything. I wanted to make sure that was all documented. In Colorado, it was a lot different. Everything was cataloged. Everything that we received was written down. Everything that I did was written down in a detailed report. So I did do a detailed report there, but it was different. Different mentality. The guys over at Arkansas are great people. And you can tell they didn't have tragic incidents like this all the time that happen. So everybody was still learning. And from a standpoint of a university official, when something like this happens, there is a lot to go through because it's not just like a plane that crashes. These guys are representatives of OSU or the university, any university. So there's a lot of things that has to be done that out of respect, a lot of things that need to be done. And so I learned a lot by working with Dr. Bosselman in that aspect and how the university officials handle everything. And now if something like that was to happen, since I'm one of the guys that's still around here from when it happened, I can help direct it and say, we don't want to do this because this is what happened in previous incidents, or we want to do this because it just needs to be done. So it wasn't as extensive as the one in Colorado, but it was still, tragic.
Have you written protocol so for those once you retired?
I do. I have. In fact, we still talk about it today with the command staff about, we what if situations a lot, and we write it down and just share as much knowledge that I have so that if something does happen when I'm gone, at least they have some knowledge of what needs to take place. It did come into play for the parade crash when that happened, but in such a different setting on that day. It's a football game, And as you know, our assignments for football start probably anywhere between 6 and 4 hours before the game even starts. I was the big planner for the day for the football games. And that morning, woke up. It was an evening game, I believe it was. That morning, I woke up, got things together because we had the parade going on. So navigating through town, it was a little, so I go the long way around. And as I'm coming up Western Avenue, patrol car blows by. And I get to the station. They said they just had this incident that happened. And someone drove through the parade. And it had just happened. So all the logistics starts going into play, the planning. Rob Hill over at the city of Stillwater had a great plan in place, and it all fell in place. We called transit to transport the injured. So Steve Spradlin had his guys ready to go. For us and the law enforcement side of things, we had 3 or 4 officers that showed out, 5 that showed up to assist. We had one standing by the hedge field for helicopter landing space, or the one the practice field, indoor practice field landing zone. So we had an officer in both places to keep an area clear just in case they need to transport somebody out through flight. I didn't go directly to the scene because the game still goes on. So I took charge of, which I was already in charge of that. I took charge of making sure everything went as directed for the game. I didn't know whether they were going to cancel a game or not. Mm-hmm. But since I didn't hear anything, I figured that we better move forward. So I had to redirect officers to different assignments so we can have everything covered that needed to be covered. And the game happened. And after the game, I got with the officers that was involved on the scene and talked to them about how important it is to discuss what they just went through. And so they all did. With some concerns, so when things like that happen in a certain, whatever setting it is, you have the people that want to talk to you for helping. And then you have the people that want to talk to you just for information. Mm-hmm. The overbearing people that come at you that want you to talk because you got to talk about it, you got to talk about it. It upsets you. I don't want to talk about it with you. And you're trying to force me to talk about it with you. It's like a pushy salesman. And it just makes you mad. Now, my approach was, I've been through twice. If you want to talk about it, I'm here. But we have plenty of other resources that you can use. You get to choose who you want to talk to now. The peer-to-peer setup that they have, like OHP did it, Stillwater does it, and we do it, where large-scale events like that, all the officers that were involved can go in and peer-to-peer with each other, with the counselor there. And then some people don't want to do that. They might want to go just straight to a counselor until they get the opportunity to filter their minds and find out what's really going on inside their head, and then they'll go talk to the group. It's just learning, seeing which person that you're talking to, how they want things to be handled. Back in the day, it was just drive on pill and keep going. If you talked about stuff like that or your emotions as a law enforcement officer or anything in the military, you were soft. So it was a scene in the training class. The trainer is brilliant. His opening was just brilliant. So we were talking about officers' mental health and people's mental health in general. So they showed a scene of it was during a war, General Patton, walking down, trying to give these guys that have been injured, half them missing arms and shot up and bandages on their head. And he walks by this one kid. and he's in a fetal position, just balling. And so he dresses him down, stands him up. He's like, what is wrong with you? Basically. The kids, I just don't know if I can take it. So his speech back then was a motivational speech. Get on back out there with the sun and fight with us. These guys, have given this one's, are you with us or are you against us? And the kids, I'm with you, sir. And then the next scene was a different movie where this guy was freaked out, and they went over and they coddled him and said, everything's going to be okay. Come on with us, and try to walk him through mentally. So it was different era and times, but just because this guy didn't look like he was injured in the fetal position, he was injured. His mind couldn't handle what he saw. But it wasn't handled that way back then. And we used to be like, you took the job, go do it. And now it's like, we want you to have everything you need to perform your duties, even if that is providing you a counselor to get you through the day and whatever you need. So I think that's what makes us better today than bitter back then.
What's happened in 20, 25 years? Well, today we're in the EOC, Emergency Operations Center.
Yes.
Did that come into play for the homecoming?
It did. So the city of Stillwater, during the parade, any large scale event, we set up a full operations center. So Stillwater has theirs. We have a mobile command bus that we set up, and then we also have this up and running. So it's ready to go. And when the parade crash happened, our command center basically was set up and was operational with Stillwater in the field where it happened. So all the people that made decisions was already right there. So it's called Steve Spradlin. He sent buses over for that. The hospital, they had nurses and stuff there, but they had one of the head nurses that could call and say, we need this. And since everybody was already there, they just let it sit up there. Now, if it would have been something like even something smaller, or I hate to sound like this, but let's say earthquake happens, a building on campus was to go down, or a bomb threat, for instance, we would get Department of Public Safety Director, me, Residential Life, the people that I kind of named out earlier, all show up here. And this will be our command post. My portion of it will be able to get whatever my captains out in the field say they need. And so if they need a bus, then I'm right next door to Steve Spradlin and say, Steve, we need a bus in this area. He's the director of parking and transit. He just get on the phone call. And that way we don't have to try to hunt people down to get something done. Can you turn the electric off at this area because we got a line dangling, it's still hot. We got the electrician here. Hey, we need this on turned off. Can you make that happen? Yes. So that's how the operations center really works. You got everybody in one area that to make things happen and without having to go through a list of phone calls, and they're all here.
Much more efficient.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because I'm trying to remember an incident when it first started. It was I think it was during the renovation of Gallagher Ave, I believe. I'm trying to think if we had a crane fall or something that happened. But we needed some things to happen, and we were calling dispatch, and some of the numbers that they had were no longer valid numbers. So
lesson learned.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then when I first took over as chief, this was just the emergency operations center at the time, so we didn't have dispatch here. And I always wondered, whenever there's an emergency that happened, we don't need to come in and prepare this thing to be ready to use. It needs to be already operational. And we don't need to wait for the emergency operations manager to come down here and turn the lights on and the computers and stuff on. It should already be prepped and ready to go. So my idea was to move dispatch down here so the EOC would automatically be warm. Nobody has to come in and turn the lights on, they're already on. tables up. All we got to do is when people show up, they go to the station, we get to work. So this thing is like 24/7 ready to go.
And they had started in, do you know the date when they
Built this?
When it set up?
Oh man, 12, 13 years ago, Ron Hill built this center. Excellent.
Like
Excellent.
2009-ish.
Mhm.
Is he kin to Rob Hill?
Yep, that's his father.
Oh, okay.
But when Ron came in, they hired Ron as emergency operations manager. And his idea for this, great vision. I couldn't see it. It's like, this was the basement. We used to store our uniforms and old police stuff down in here. And I should have known, I mean, you know, anything is possible. But when he shared his vision, it was like, no way. And then less than a year later, it's this. And top notch. Just a bragging point. And so whenever, as time went on and we learned more and more and more about emergency operations stuff, because, you know, 911 was really when Unified Command started coming out. And so we, as we learned, we started making changes. And I thought the really important part was to make this thing ready to go at any point. We don't have to wait for somebody to come in and open the door and turn on lights. It's already ready to go.
Does it operate like when walk around when there's so many people on campus?
Yeah, so any large event, even small events, I have this up and running. So we do Special Olympics. This is up and running. Since Special Olympics is mostly on campus, or used to be mostly on campus, we'll get Stillwater over here. All of us get together and we'll do it here. We also, set up the mobile command. The mobile command center is for the guys out in the field. So like Captain, Steve Spradlin, like it would be probably Tom Duncan or somebody, they meet there because they're the guys that's operating people in the field. So people don't come in and check in and say, hey, I'm here for work. They go to the mobile command bus, check in, and off where they get their assignment and go. The people in this center is the ones that are resource. They can give you whatever you need to get your job done out there. So logistics. And so this thing is always open for every event: baseball, football, track, walk around, which is huge.
Just general cameras on campus any particular time?
Yeah. So
should something happen.
Right. And that was a big push for me whenever I have not seen a campus cooperate with each other as much as they have in the last 5 or 6 years. Cooperation has just been great because as a police agency, we don't tell people how to do their job. They tell us what they need to get done and we make it safe for them to do it. So it's a lot of cooperation that falls in place. And so whenever we started getting the camera feeds here, we'd have to go to every department because everybody had different cameras. And so we were trying to line it up to where everybody would get on the same camera system so we can watch the feeds down here. And it has nothing to do with trying to catch somebody doing something bad or wanting control over their system. None of that. It's just, it would help us help you stay safe. We did once catch some kids going down the tunnel over by Whitehurst. Very dangerous down there. And dispatcher just happened to be watching it. And some of them have alarms on them, so when people move, it'll light up. Just happened to be watching and saw guys going down the tunnel, so they was able to send the officer over. And they're breaking the law. No, they wasn't breaking and entering and anything, but the dangers of it, you get out there, you fall, you get bit by a snake or what have you. Ain't nobody gonna find you. You know?
I didn't know there was a tunnel.
Yeah. The most of them have been closed off, some collapsed, but yeah.
For what purpose were they built to begin with?
They were built for like running cables and stuff
Okay.
underneath the campus,
Infrastructure
water
stuff.
line, yeah. So.
Okay. Well, you mentioned Special Olympics, so I've got to ask something about you plunging into the lake dressed as Snow White.
Yeah, yes. Yes. So, I've been involved in Special Olympics since 1994, since I started police department. And 2000, had to be 6 or 7, I actually took over organization or liaison for law enforcement and the campus for the security of Special Olympics. And our committee decided we were going to do the polar plunge. And the first year we were the village people. The second year we were, I was Snow White. So I had to dress in a dress. Put a bow around my head. And
Really cold.
yeah, it was cold. The third year we did, I think it was the Super Friends. So superheroes. So we got superhero outfits and we wore them there. Yeah. Well, that's fun.
You still do that?
No, I did it for. In fact, I just reassigned the part that I was doing to Adam Queen about 4 years ago, I believe. Right when I became captain, my whole assignment duties changed, and I had to start relieving myself of some of the stuff. And it was good too because it gives everybody else the opportunity to get involved. And so, yeah, I'm still involved with Special Olympics. I'll, opening ceremonies, be here, go out and ride around and just check out the scene. But for the most part, I let Adam do his thing.
And they gave you an award one year for all of your service with it.
Yeah, got the award for that, which was awesome. It was kind of, I don't know. Some for me is what we do. Being recognized was good, but I don't know. Accepting awards in some ways is kind of weird.
Well, it's kind of communicating too that hey, we're okay.
Yeah.
You're just an all-around good guy.
I try to be. I hope so. Just.
Well, and I'm thinking with the cameras, it's good for when the kids pull the fire alarm when they, fire alarm pranks when there's no fire.
Right.
And you can try to zero in and figure out who that is.
Yep. And they record so we can go back and look as much as we need. And that was a kind of my eyes a major accomplishment that all the departments got together and gave us the opportunity or allowed us into their system so we can watch the cameras. Because if something major was to happen, being down in the basement, you can't really see nothing. So it's nice to have live feeds, and that way I don't have to keep calling the captain saying, okay, what's going on now? What's going on now? He's got a job to do. He don't need to be on the radio telling me every step that he takes. So
walkie-talkies, they don't do walkie-talkies anymore, do they?
No, we got the radio system that seems to work real good. But yeah, so now having a live feed, we can actually. I mean, we don't have eyes on the total campus, but if we can, at least we can see it there, and the other people in the room can see it, and so they kind of get a better understanding of what needs to happen.
Can you see who changes the dye in the fountain?
It was funny. We did have the footage, but it was dark and it was grainy. So that let us know that we need to upgrade the camera. And so we go over to the union and said, can we do an upgrade on the camera? Which every time you say upgrade, everybody freaks out because of budget. It's not in the budget. It's not in the budget. Yeah. So we try to figure out ways that we could work together to try to get things done.
I mean, it doesn't cause danger. It's just,
right.
It's just mischief.
Yep. It'd be nice to at least once say, hey, we caught the culprit that died. Not that we're going to file any charges on them or anything. But.
No, and then the time that they knocked down the S the temporary S.
Yep.
I don't guess there's a camera on that spot necessarily either. So
Now, the one that really had everybody upset is the wooden kid they had down at Theta Pond. It was over the pandemic, and they cut the arms off.
I wondered what happened to him.
Yeah. Somebody went over there and straight up analyzed it, and it was. You want to just find out who it is and say why.
Why? What did that accomplish? Yeah.
The big boots that used to be over at the Alumni Center, flower pots or boots. Somebody stole one of them and ended up in Kansas. We got a call from the campus police up there and say, "Hey, we got this big boot here. Believe it belongs to you guys." We ended up finding out who it was that did it. Social media has helped us out quite a bit. A parking sign had gotten stolen, and the kid that stole it videoed himself, got to his room, selfied himself with this. So we see the picture and track him down. And he's like, "No, I just saw this and I just took it to sign, No, you took it. You actually broke it down and took it with the pole and everything." "No, I didn't." "Is this you on the video that you posted?" Yeah. So
They didn't think that through, did they?
no.
Well, do you also have to patrol Karsten Creek, the golf course, since that's the universe?
So when they have events out there, we'll do.
For them. Yeah.
And since it is part of OSU, we don't like frequent it all the time. I'll drive out there and go through just to show a presence or check and make sure everything's okay. So, and then, like I said, we did Lake Patrol. I did Lake Patrol for 9.5 years out of Lake Called Blackwell.
Well, some of the most common arrests up there, I guess, alcohol too, or
speed.
boat speeding.
So we did.
Would call it.
Yeah, we did. So we had back then. We had a boat, and Kawasaki here in town would give us 2 jet skis each year. So myself and Kevin Parton, we were 2 Lake Patrol officers, and we were like chips on the water. If you remember the TV show Chips. But anyway, this particular day, I'm out on a jet ski and I'm by myself, and I see this guy. He's operating another jet ski, and you have to have your life vest on to operate a personal watercraft for obvious reasons. If you fall off, so I go to make contact with this guy. I said, "Where's the life vest?" I said, "I don't have one." I said, "Okay, can I get your name, date of birth?" And I said, "Don't lie to me, because when we get back on the shore, I'm going to get it." So he gave me his name and date of birth. I check him. He's got a warrant out for his arrest. And Payne County wants him. So I said, "Okay, here's the deal." And we're out in the middle of the lake. So here's the deal. You got a warrant for your arrest. And so I'm going to arrest you. We can do it now, or we can do it. I can let you take your jet ski back to the owner, or I can just arrest you now, put you on the back, and have somebody tow this thing off, and he can go get it out of the impound. He said, "Well, I'd just rather take it back to him." I said, "Okay, and don't try anything stupid, because I'm going to catch you." So sure enough, he takes off. And the jet skis we had were high powered. So 70 miles an hour, easy on the water. So as he's like gunning and trying to get away, I'm like kind of right behind him. And before he gets to shore, he bails off and he's trying to run through the water. And I ride up beside him and I dive on him. And we wrestle around in the water. When I raised him up, I got the handcuffs on him. And the people up on the shore started clapping like that was the coolest thing they ever seen. I didn't think anything about it. But got him up to the car, and one of the other officers hauled him in. So a lot of stories, a lot of funny stories.
So you need to learn you had to know how to swim to have that job.
Yeah, I wasn't the greatest swimmer, but yeah, I could.
Good to know you had your vest on too. So.
Yeah. So the funny story, Kevin Parton were both riding together. And we get over to the south side of the lake over by a bass club. And we're probably going about 25. And just kind of laughing and talking. All of a sudden, Parton disappears. I look over here. When I look back, he's gone. And I was like, where is he? You can see the water rippling. And so I'm like, yell his name a couple times. Then all of a sudden he comes back up. And he's hanging on to this jet ski, and it just comes back up and it falls back down. I was like, what happened? Did you hit something? Something grabbed you? And he's coughing because he's trying to get the water out of his face. And finally he says, man, he said, he hit the reverse lever and gassed it. The reverse lever, all it is a spoon that goes over the jet and start pushing the water back, so it backs you up. Well, he hit that when he gassed it and went straight to the bottom. And he held on the whole time. And when he come back up, and he was all wet, and radio was wet, and the mic stuck open, and we were laughing and talking, trying to figure out what had happened. But
Like this monster got him.
yeah, that's what I thought. Like, where did he go, man? This is crazy. But so I heard my phone ringing. I might need to check that real quick.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Make sure it's not working.
We're about finished anyway.
Hey, what's up? Doing good. How about yourself? Monday. Yeah. 10 will work. Thanks. Bye. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay. But we'll try to wrap up here. So, from your standpoint, how has the university done in regards to keeping the promise to remember?
I believe so far been pretty good, especially me being here and seeing it in action. The memorial really sets the tone when people go to Gallagher or even outside of Gallagher and they see the Pete. It prompts the conversation. So a lot of people that are coming in now might not know, but at least when they hit that area, it prompts the conversation. And so I think university's doing a really good job of remembering.
Well, I mean, one memorial's outside for the four,
Mm-hmm.
and then one inside for the 10. So, yeah, can see that. Okay, from your standpoint, in the 25 years too, if you could name one or two things that are highlights for yours, what would they be?
For my career?
Yeah, for your career.
So,
besides being named chief and reaching your goal.
Yeah,
besides that.
I have so many moments that, it's just hard to choose. You know, becoming a police officer, not really knowing what all was going to be happening. And it's just been one of the greatest 25 years. And especially the path that it's taken me on has been incredible. Being able to actually meet people, like, the more you think about it, the age of the students stay the same.
Yeah.
I mean, 18 to 23, 24 every year. So I have to constantly update myself. But the greatest moments is when a student come back and they make it a point to stop by and see me. And we conversate and they tell me things about how their life is going, how a particular contact helped them or what have you, and vice versa. So that's the highlight the most, is the parents send their kids here, they're young adults, not kids anymore, but young adults here for a different experience and get a college degree, and they trust us to help them get through it. And sometimes we fail at it. Most of the times we do a good job when we do our best. So when you do get to see those kids or those adults when they come back, it just puts a big smile on your face that they are doing well and that you actually got a chance to meet them. So.
Play some small part in that. Have any of them gone on to be police officers?
Yes. In fact, his name slips my mind, and I know it was going to happen. He's a Dallas police officer. He was an athlete here. He was a football player back in 96, 97. Quite a few people that have come through are police officers now. Jason Suter, who was a fraternity member here. He joined us as a public safety officer, actually a student worker. And I was impressed with him. When we had an opening, he went through the prior hiring process and we hired him. He worked with us for several years and he went to Oklahoma City. He called me last week. He just got promoted to lieutenant. So he's finishing up his law degree. So he's doing good. He credited me with that. I was like, "Oh man, you earned every bit of that yourself." And he's like, "You gave me the opportunity, and I learned so much from you while I was there. It's all about work ethics, you know. Just do what you do, and you don't have to be a jerk about it either. You just treat everybody with respect. Everybody earns it. Everybody deserves it."
Well, in your 25 years, I didn't do my history check well enough. The first female on the course on the force, was that before you came or after you came?
Before I came.
Before you came,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so
there's not been very many,
mm-hmm.
But that's not because you don't want them. It's because they just don't go into it.
Right. And so we have 3 female officers here. One in Tulsa. I was the first African-American chief, which was a big highlight. My parents were really, really proud. They came up for my swearing in.
I wondered if they did.
Yeah, they came up for the swearing in. There's a lot of things that happened over the 26 years I've been here. That's just been incredible. And I don't know, it seemed like 26 years is a long time.
It is.
But it don't seem like it's been that long. I know my hair is graying and all that stuff, but it's been, for the most part, pretty good. I'm not going to tell you that I didn't get in trouble. I did a lot of stuff to get in trouble. I had to sit in front of the chief several times and explain my actions, but I always owned up to what I did, and a lot of it is out of not knowing and making a mistake. But you only get to do things a certain minute of time before you can't call it a mistake anymore. So,
and you learn from those.
Yeah, I learned from those.
Still learn from those.
We over the years, worked several drownings out at the lake. Mm. My second week on the force, I hadn't even went to the academy yet. Was it second week or third? It was during OU. It was right after the OOHRP football game I was telling you about earlier. We had all kinds of events that happened after the game. So we were working a dance down at Sarah Center. A lot of other events going on, and all the officers were still on duty all the way up until almost 1. So I was getting undressed, out of my uniform, getting ready to head home, and we had a call of a shooting. And it was at North University Place. It was Building 40. Me being brand new, I didn't get to go up there. I didn't really want to go up there. It started with a fight between two kids from, I think, Sri Lanka. One went to this car, grabbed his gun, and went back up and shot the other kid, killed him. And I'm like, wow, like 3rd week or 4th week on duty. Does this happen all the time? What did I get myself into? Yeah, the next morning, Chief Eaton, he had done his press conference, did the investigation, and that was that. The next, we was going to training, and as we're driving, we used to do training out at the VOTEC, Meridian. As we're driving out there, a car crash happens right in front of us. And it was bad enough that I thought somebody was injured. And I've not seen anything like this yet, injuries and stuff. So I turned the lights on, blocked the traffic, run up to check on the lady that was in the front car. And when I opened the door, there was like fluid all over it. And I was like, like, what is this? Well, she had cappuccino. And so when she got hit, cappuccino went all over. And I said, ma'am, are you okay? She said, I'm just burning up from this cappuccino, So, but when I first looked at it, I was like, oh man, what is, yeah, I thought my stomach was turning, but she was okay. Everybody was okay with worked the accident and got that all cleared up. So even though it's like, they always say things about sense of humor, especially in the type of job that we have, it's, I wouldn't say sadistic or anything like that. It's just certain things that we talk about and we might be laughing. It's not in a disrespectful laughing way. It's how your mind gets you through a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And I was just talking about the accident, first telling about the accident, like, oh my God, that's terrible. But as we get through the story, to me, I'm already laughing before I finish telling the story because I know what the funny part is about. But somebody that I'm telling the story to would be like, how can you be laughing at this? It's a serious incident. But over the years, I have a lot of those and a lot of stories. I should write a book, but.
When you retire, do that. Start taking notes.
Taking notes. And yeah, it's just the crazy things that happen all around me here. If it happened and I was on duty, it happened around me. So I got to experience a lot of different things. Plane crash itself was one that was the most significant, I guess.
Life-changing.
Life. In a lot of ways in the heart. You never know when the last time you get to talk to people. So talk to everybody I can.
Would you do it all again? I mean, you'd come to OSU and stay?
Yeah, I would.
Do you consider Stillwater home or is it still
New Boston?
New Boston.
Stillwater's home now.
Is it?
Yeah. Somebody's asked me, what would you do when you retire?
Uh-huh.
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here.
And you mentioned you're married and two children? Is she a Stillwater girl?
No. So I've been married and divorced twice.
Okay.
In fact, I just recently got divorced in February 2020. But I have 5 grandkids, 2 boys here that live in Stillwater, and they're going to school here at OSU.
Okay, that's good. Nice.
Then I have my daughter that lives in St. Louis, Missouri. Has 3 girls, ages 15 to 2 years. So
maybe they'll come here. At least one of them.
Mm-hmm. And so I get to talk to them as much as I can. I don't get to see them as often as I'd like to, but they're from my first marriage. My second marriage, she's from Perry, Oklahoma, and we were married for 11 years until it just fell apart. So
does the job contribute to the negatives of the job?
So my second marriage, how to put it, we were not right for each other from day one.
Okay. That happens.
I thought we could make it work. Just totally 2 different people that didn't realize it until later. It was just like, can't continue living like this. first wife, she was a LPN nurse here at Stillwater Medical Center. She started off working at the courthouse, and after she left there, she went to school, got her LPN license. I wasn't an officer yet at the time. We got married in '89, and after she got through her schooling, I joined law enforcement, and we just grew apart, and just that was one of those I don't know, young, and we were dating, and everything just moved a little bit too fast. And like I said, the second one, I knew from day one that we just wasn't. We shouldn't have never did it, but we did.
Yeah.
So
we live and we learn.
we live and we learn. So now I'm just me enjoying life and taking advantage of every opportunity that I have in front of me.
Do you anticipate any of the grandchildren being interested in law enforcement?
Two of them, and then both the Andrea and Layla. That's the two oldest granddaughters in Missouri. Andrea, she dressed up as a law enforcement officer for her costume day, and they sent a picture of her side by side of me, my professional shot, and her. So one day she'll be one. So, Layla, she's a tomboy. She loves sports. She got every shoe known in basketball, seemed like it. And she's when we retire badges, I send her my badge so she collects them. So
They retire badges?
yeah, so what we did was we switched badges. When I first started, we had the old shield. Now we got the star. Mm-hmm. So we had the old shield. We disabled them. So okay, people can't. But we were allowed to get our old badge numbers. And so I started off with badge number 21. And so Layla has that one. And then when I got promoted from officer to sergeant, I moved to number 9. And we had some other promotions happen, which moved my number up. I went to number 8. And when I got promoted to captain, I went to number 2. And now I'm number 1 as a chief.
So it's by seniority or by rank? Or
by rank.
By rank. Okay.
And then in between that, we had a memorial badge for the Murrah Building bombing. And so we were able to purchase those personally for us. So I bought one of those, and then she keeps it for me. And then 50th year anniversary of law enforcement. We got that one.
When would that have been?
2 years ago.
2019?
Yep.
Okay.
And then also they had a memorial badge for 911. So I bought one of those too. So she has them all in her little case.
That's pretty neat that she's even interested in it. That's cool.
Good.
Okay, well, I have skipped through my questions and we've covered everything I've got down here. Is there anything that you want to say that I haven't asked or that I've not known to ask?
Oh, just I can't say enough about OSU. When my brother decided he wanted to move to Stillwater, I said, well, it's a place where dreams come true, and he always wanted to have his shop. So he opened up his mechanic business, and he's doing well. But I definitely appreciate you guys allowing me to be part of this. It's a very important story that needs to be told over and over and over again. And one is now that I guess the worry about talking about it has since passed. A lot of things that we wouldn't normally talk about, we can. Not as much details as what we went through, but at least people get to know the story. And OSU did an incredible job. I know it don't bring back the loved ones and things, but I still feel for the family members every day. Each one of them know who I am. Talk to them as often when I do see them. In fact, I talk to Karen Hancock as much as possible. And I see Chad, man, me and Chad are pretty close. And I'm very, very proud of what he's done.
Yeah.
It's great. But yeah, OSU has just been,
It's family.
it's family. Enough said, right? It's incredible.
It gets your blood orange after, and then it stays that way.
It stays that way.
Well, then my last question is, when history's written about Leon Jones, what do you want it to say? How do you want to be remembered?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Takes a little thought.
I really do want people to smile when they say my name or remember me as just a person that genuinely cares about everything. It's a good question.
You can see you kind of being a bridge too between all aspects of things.
Yeah, I would like to be remembered as that person that was never afraid to take the step to make change. I used to shave my head every so often, and people would say, "Man, I went from a flat top to one day all the hair is gone." So why do you do that? So never be afraid to change. Everything is so temporary. Embrace it while you can, but don't be afraid to let go of it because it will keep you in one spot. And we got to be able to move forward. The future is bright, and there is good in every aspect of life. I don't care what happens.
Just take time to notice.
Just take time to notice.
Okay, well, I thank you for taking time to spend with me this morning.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys allowing me to be part of this.